Okay, welcome to this is the chapter 7.3 exercise 2 question walkthrough. Right, so you need to be looking at your question paper, the one that you have gotten back from me as we walk you through the requirements of each of these questions. So overall performance, it wasn't too bad, but there was one very prevalent problem. Okay, many of you actually failed to answer the question. So when you fail to answer what exactly the question wants, you will not be able to be awarded any marks, even if the data you've quoted, the information you have put down is technically not wrong, but it's not what we're looking for in terms of the question. So we will be looking at question analysis in this particular walkthrough video. Okay, so first question, what's the reason it stops Singapore from being able to store and collect all the rain that falls on it? Okay, 1 mark, what are we looking for? We're looking for the reason. So many of you have got the correct idea that you talk about the land size that Singapore has, the fact that we have a small land area. Okay, the idea is correct. However, that's not the reason, because if there's nothing actually on the island itself, and you were to use all of it for water collection, we actually would have enough water collected for the consumption of the local population. So it isn't a matter of size, it's what you have used or what Singapore has chosen to use the little bit of land that it has. Okay, as opposed to using it for water collection, what has we used it for? So many of you have correctly identified that we have opted to use this very small area of land. Okay, note, I still need you to mention that the land area is small. Okay, for some of you who put down the 72 square kilometers of space, I think that's not wrong. However, the essence of it is not just telling me it's small, but why is that? Why did that become a problem? Okay, so the fact that we are using it for something else instead of using it for water collection or rainfall collection rather, that is the answer that we're looking for. So take a minute, take a look at it, process through what you see here as your points of thinking as you process, as you look at the question. This is how you should have given yourself the scope to answer. Next question, why do you think that there is a need to separate the collection of rainwater and sewage water? So what is the main problem if you do not do the separation? Okay, what would happen if we do not do this separation? Now, many of you actually have shown very clearly that you understand in Singapore, we do recycling of water. Okay, so some of you even go on to talk about the use of new water. Okay, how it is actually it may hinder the recycling process of the new water if we were to let rainwater and sewage water mix. Now, I need to clarify this. There is no issue with purifying rainwater and sewage water. It can be done with the new water filtration process. Okay, it is very much possible. However, beyond this pollution or this, the fact that there will be cross contamination of these two, okay, the next mark that is given is actually more important. So what is the link? So if you take a look at it, when you are able to just clean up rainwater, okay, the amount of pollutants you have inside rainwater is a lot lesser than the amount in sewage. So when you mix your sewage with the rainwater, the type of collected water now needs to be cleaned more thoroughly. It needs to be undergo through a more thorough or maybe more extensive purification process. And as a result of that, the thing that will increase is cost. So many of you fail to highlight that extended portion on cost, and that is where you lose your marks. For the next question, we want you to give a name example, explain what a protected catchment area is. Now, if you had focused on the content in the 3 videos that were given to you, the catchment area, okay, what constitutes a catchment area would be clearer to you. Now, I would like to focus instead on the first part, the name example. Now, not all reservoirs are considered catchment areas. There are a couple of them that do not qualify. So if you talk about Kallang Reservoir, Marina Barrage, and Bedok Reservoir, these 3 do not qualify as catchment areas because the vegetation around it is not the main catchment. Okay, and okay, if you think of a catchment area, And what does it mean? In terms of a protected catchment area, you need to have a substantial amount of nature and existence to protect. Okay, if you're building it from scratch, it's completely man-made, then what catchment or what protection do you need to accord to it? It is already done by men. So when you look at Bedok Reservoir has a sort of a green belt around it. However, that's a very small belt compared to what you see in the lower image here of McRitchie. You can see that the quantum of the green belt is massively different. Okay, so this is important. Second part of the question, of course, is what is special about protected catchment? What are you supposed to do, or what are you allowed to do with catchment? What are the options, or are there any options for development in a protected catchment area at all? So if you're able to cover these two concepts, these two ideas about a protected catchment area, and able to give us one of the main catchment areas that's around, be it Lower Pierce, Upper Pierce, Merici, right, Seletar, any one of those reservoirs within the central catchment area, you would have secured your 3 marks. Now next question talks about 2 impurities. This question actually is very, very simple. The question says identify 2 impurities found in homes that can seriously impact algae and microscopic aquatic organisms. Okay, 2 marks. 2 marks, 2 impurities is a state question. So I only require you to identify. There was no indication that you needed to explain either one or both of them. So the only caveat is these things must be found in the home. So either you tell me things that are instantly recognizable as a pollutant, like dog waste material or your cleaning chemicals. Otherwise, if it is something that you have decided to quote, for example, mercury, okay, or heavy metals, I have students who have written that down. But where do you find these things in the home? Okay, I do not deny that you can find heavy metals in the home. However, when you talk about disposing them, what are you disposing and that contains these heavy metals? Okay, you cannot just generally state heavy metals because you see the word heavy metals in your stimulus, in your text. Okay, so the link back to the question must be there, ATQ. And then finally, the question on why is it important that invasive species are not allowed to take root in the water systems? What are invasive species? Okay, what is your understanding of invasive species? What problems would arise if you allow them to take root? Okay, what will more importantly happen to the local species? So if you look at the question carefully, it's actually asking you not only not about the invasive species, but what is the impact of the local species in the water systems. So if you take a look at the image here, this is a common terrapin, common red terrapin that many of you may have had while you were growing up. And after a while, you lost interest in it. And what do? Some of you responsibly flushed it down the toilet bowl so it died. The rest of you could have released it into the neighborhood pond and therefore destroyed the local species that were there because they will hunt and they will thrive and they live for a really long time. So the question here doesn't really focus on invasive species on its own. The question here asks you to look at invasive species in relationship to the local species that they will interact with if you choose to leave them out into the local water systems. So with that, we've come to the end. It is important that at this moment in time you take note that you need to file this into your geography file with your corrections. Please get corrections done. We'll be collecting your files somewhere in week 4 just to tidy up, and we'll return it to you in time for WA2 prep, which would be in week 7. So please go back and take a look at your answers, do your corrections, and file this in your geography file. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Have a good day ahead.